Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's episode, we're gonna explore on writing a query to get the latest holders for any ERC20 tokens, and also a query to look at the daily holders, right? So I think a lot of analysts always only do latest holders, but what about daily holders, right? What about the trend of the holders? A few months ago, I actually did a query for daily and latest for NFTs. If you've missed that video, you can check it out here. But essentially, it's the same principles. And like the previous video, I'm going to start off by highlighting two queries that I feel are doing this very wrongly, unfortunately. So the first query that we're going to look at is, I believe this is latest holders. So this person is looking at the token transfers table to get this particular token, which is which happens to be the SGD token. Yeah, this one. And what they're doing is they are filtering for, they're using from address, calculating how much the net balance of from address to address, and sort of like sum it all together. Now, the main problem here is that you're using this filter where it says to address not equals to the null address, and this is very wrong because all token mints come from this address. So imagine if you minted this token, it will come from this address, and so if you're filtering out this address, it means you're not taking into account all the addresses that minted but did not do any transfers. So this is just very wrong. Yeah, I'm just surprised they didn't do their due diligence to check the holders against the explorers, whether it's right. Right, there's a holders tab here on SnowScan. And then let's get another query. This query I think is trying to look at daily holders, I believe, but the way they're doing it is very convoluted and it's wrong. So let's take a look. So first, they are using this as their sort of like raw table for token transfers, and then on a transaction hash basis they are grouping the balance. So on the transaction hash basis, okay, and then later on they are summing by the date, but you're not summing by the address, right? So I don't know, this is just I don't know what to say. I don't even know what this is calculating. So we're going to learn from these two queries and instead do the actual query. So what does latest holder mean? Latest holder just means after all the mints, transfers, ins and outs, what is the final amount that people are actually holding. And then for, I guess we'll do latest first. Okay, so latest, right? For latest, we just need a token transfers table. And so I would just have to copy this over here. And yeah, let's see this. So I like to start off with like a raw city. So with raw as, remove all this filters, and then I like to add timestamp from address to address. Now there are multiple variations of amount here. There's amount piece size, there's raw amount, and for the most part you can stick with amount, but there are cases where you might run into precision issues. So for example, let's say like someone transferred, let's say like this amount of tokens with many precisions, and this value might be stored not exactly as it is in the table. So that's why there's an option to use raw amount, but we're going to stick with using amount instead. So this is all I need, and then I'm going to create a sort of like a direction. So I'm going to say direction as, now direction is where I'm going to decide, whenever it's a from address, that means you're spending the token, and so the amount will be negative, right? If I'm deducting the amount out of the from address. But if it's a to address, that means I'm receiving the token, so then the amount is positive. So I'm just going to say something like to address and then amount. This is the positive one. And then this would be the negative or outflow from address and then minus amount. Right? Minus amount, and then you can just say like amount as amount. So you can imagine if I were to do a sum of this direction, I will get the net amount transferred out of this address basically. And because I'm doing a union all, I can actually change this name and say like address, and then this would be changed to address as well. But for clarity's sake, I'm going to rename it the same thing as above. And I think that's it. That's all I need. So address sum amount as holdings, grouped by address, having holdings 1 and 0. Another thing is I would like to have a block timestamp filter here. So what you can do is you would go to when the token is created. So click on this one, and this is May 2024. So you can just add that filter in your token transfers. So block timestamp May, yeah, there you go. And by doing a sum, we are summing all the net transfers in and out of a particular address. So the difference between this and the first query is that the first query has these filters, which is completely not necessary. In fact, it is making the query wrong. And so by taking that out, we are getting all possible transfers. So let's wait for the results. Okay. Now you see here we have like 590 results compared to SnowScan showing 369, and this is because of the precision issue like I was mentioning before. So if I were to filter for the highest holders first, just to check roughly if it's correct, right? So 2494360, 2494360, right? This is right. 1478970. There you go. It's 369470. Yeah, it's about there. 271, yeah. So it looks like the top 5 are roughly correct. Keep in mind there is delay in these tables. So just based off random sampling, at least the top ones are correct. Now what about the 200 plus, that is where our numbers are overcounted? Oh, sorry, our numbers are much higher than SnowScan. If we were to sort the holdings by ascending order, which means the smallest amount, you can see this is like really, really small amount. And this is mostly because of the precision issues. So what could be causing this is, let's say this address, right, receives 100.10, something like this, and then it transfers out right, like a very close amount to this. And so what happens is this is the remaining balance, right? And this might be not considered as it might be considered 0, right? For another way you can think about this is you can sort of round this thing. So you can do something like round some amount to, I don't know, 10 decimal places. And if you run that query, that should get your total holders down. They got 370, right? Very close to what's reported on SnowScan. Yeah, so it's basically just down to like 0 point, a bunch of zeros, and then 1. Okay, so that's how you do latest holders. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. All right, again, recapping, we just use the transfers table, use the token contract address filter to look at the token we want, look at the timestamp filter for when a token is created to make our queries more efficient, and then a direction CTE to give positive and negative whenever token is transferred in and out. And finally, we do a submission at the end where we round the holdings to get rid of all the dust, so to speak. Yeah, that's latest holders. I'm gonna comment on all this, and we will do the daily holders for this over here. So this is on BSC. So let's see what token this is. It's the Bubble Maps token, which was created very recently. Okay, so XSGD, and then my daily holders query with Bubble Maps. Okay, so for daily holders, the principle, if you've watched the NFT holder video, is quite similar, where we kind of need there's two big ideas, right? The first idea is we want a list of all possible addresses that has touched the token, and then a list of dates from when the token is created. So on one hand we have like all the possible address, and then on the other axis we have all the possible dates, so that for every possible address we have every possible date. And this is important because then we can track at which particular date how much balance does any given address have at that point in time. And that's why these two things are important for us to track the running balance for every day. So how do we do this? First, let's try to get all possible addresses, and the way to do that is of course with the token transfers table. So I'm gonna reuse what I have, but change this to BSC because we're looking at a token on BSC, and this one to apply the lower function here. Okay, and then timestamp created will be January this year. So okay, there you go. And what else do we need? Okay, so this gives us possible address. So I'm gonna say like addresses as distinct to address. Why to address? Because whenever a token is minted, it comes from the null address, the 0x00 address, to an address, right? So all addresses that have touched the token would have is a set of to address. It cannot be from address, because if my address received the token and I did not transfer any token out, my address will be excluded, right? So you want it to be the to address. And let's call this as like all address, or like address list maybe. And then I want, so we have two things. You want a list of all addresses and I want a list of all dates. So there is a handy table called cross-chain dim dates. So cross-chain called dim dates, where it tells you all of the, it gives you all the possible dates for many years. So we're going to make use of that. So all dates as select from this table where date day more than or between January and current date, right? Whenever this query is ran. And I just want date day, so I'll just call this as like days, right? And then my to address would be address. So now I have all the possible addresses and all the possible dates. So now I can cross join the two and say like address dates as select from all dates cross join addresses. So now for every possible day between January 1st and until today, I have I've an address entry for every possible day. And same thing for every address, I have every possible day between this date and this date. So this is our full table essentially. And the idea is that we would then use our raw table to get the daily changes and left join with our dates. So let's do that. I would need the direction, this one. So I'm just going to copy this. Let's see, block timestamp to address raw. Okay, and then now I need a summation, a sum of the net change per day per address. So direction aggregate. Direction aggregate would be from direction and then timestamp, days, address, some amount as daily change, right? Yeah, that looks right. So I'm summing group by all. I'm summing the net change for every day and every address, or by day and by address. Now, the result of this query, for example, let's say today I sent out some tokens, so my daily change for today will be negative, and maybe tomorrow there's no change, so I want the value to be 0, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to use this and left join with our full table, which is this. Let's see, full table, address dates, left join, direction aggregate using days, and address, days and address, that looks right. And so I have my days, I have my address, and then I have my daily change. But remember, if a particular day I did not change any balance, I want this to show 0. If not, this will be null. So I'm going to do a coalesce, and let's call this like daily change adjusted. Yeah, I think that's it. So now with all the ingredients, it's time to do a final query where we would just say days, oh no, final holdings as sum of this over partition by address order by days ascending as running balance. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. where running balance. Yeah, I guess if you want to count for 0, this would be it. Okay. Okay, so the final query here, let's see if it has any errors, then we'll try to debug it. But the final query here says that I'm counting every day where the address has a positive running balance. That means any day, any address that has a positive balance in any given day, let's count that as a holder. And that would give you my daily holders. All right, let's see what the result is. Oh, this looks like a new token then. Yeah, so if you were to chart this out, not the best chart, but when the token is minted, there are no transfers. And on 26th of February, the token is maybe like minted and transferred to some address, and it's not until March 11 where most people get the token. And so now you can see the daily number of holders change, right? So this is how you would do the daily holders query. Now let's quickly double check if the holders is right for 0301. So ours is slightly higher, and I wonder if it's because of the precision issue. So definitely worth it to run the latest holders query and see if we need to do this round thing, just to round it up and to get the exact holders, I guess. But all in all, this is how you do daily holders, right? Daily ERC20 holders. To recap, we just need our transfers table, and then the two main things we need: a list of all addresses and a list of all dates. Cross join the two together to get every single day for every single address. Determine the daily net change per day, and then left join with our full table. And finally, just count the number of days where the balance of the address is more than 0. I would say though, one limitation of this query is that if you're looking at something like Tether, which has a lot of different users and has been around for a long time, I think this table will take way too long to run, because it is calculating the balance for every single address that have touched this token. So definitely one downside, but yeah, if you were to run a daily holders query, this is how you do it. And I think that's it for this video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.